What's going on, you guys? My name's Tynot and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns, 5 scariest stories from Reddit of 2019. Number 5. When I was 3 in 1986, my parents and I lived in Tucson, Arizona. My sister was a little under 1 year old, and we lived in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom brick house with a 4-foot chain-link fence around the backyard. There's an alley running behind the backyard, but it was a relatively safe neighborhood. We also had a dog named Bandit who was half pug and half cocker spaniel, whom we'd had since he was 6 months old. One day my mom was inside doing dishes and cleaning while I was playing out in the backyard. She let me play alone because the backyard was fenced and I couldn't get out. Anyhow, the kitchen window faced the backyard, so periodically she'd look out the window to check on me. My mom said that she was washing dishes when our dog Bandit began barking and growling. She looked up out of the window to see a white guy in his 40s leaning over the fence, trying to coax me up to him. Bandit had placed himself between the man and me and was trying to bite the guy. My mom rushed out, and as soon as the guy saw my mom, he took off running down the alley. My mom grabbed me, ran inside, and called the police. They came and investigated but never caught the guy. My dad wasn't a big animal lover, but after this day he only had admiration for our dog. He wasn't a big dog or particularly mean looking, but he was the best boy ever. He died of old age when I was about 14. I still remember how he would follow us kids around wherever we went and was always there to protect us. I still miss him all these years later and get teary-eyed just thinking about him. Number 4. When I was about 11, a friend and I were hanging out at a local convenience store as small-town kids often do. A guy walked in the front doors. He was probably in his late teens or early 20s. He looked at us for a moment and then went into the restrooms. About 10 minutes later, he approached us and tried to shake my hand. I almost agreed, but I hesitated long enough to notice white stuff dripping from his palm and the ends of his fingertips. I said no thanks and he scurried off without buying anything. My friend and I both thought that it was odd that he'd try to shake a kid's hand at all, let alone with what was probably soap dripping from his fingers, but the soap in the bathroom was pink. Now that we're old enough to know better, that was definitely not soap. Number 3. Last summer, I was camping with my partner and our 30-pound dog along a creek in a popular area in a nearby national forest. It was an established site, but not a full-on campground. It had a parking spot, a fire ring, and was a nice flat area with access to the creek. It was the dead of night when we were woken up by a large truck parked out by our car, just idling. Eventually, 3 men get out and they enter our camp. They're talking quietly, and the truck and creek make it hard for us to hear what they're saying, but I'm pretty sure it's not good. Meanwhile, our dog has been growling lowly this whole time. Early on, I whispered to my partner to be quiet, hold the dog, and hide. I got out of our sleeping bag and put my shoes on. The only thing I had for defense was a forest axe. They took their time, perhaps as intimidation, but eventually got closer to our tent. I loudly popped the metal button from the latch on my axe, taking the sheath from the axe, preparing to become an axe murderer or become murdered myself. All 3 of them heard the latch, and my assumption is that they thought it was a gun holster, so they quickly left the camp, got in their truck, and left without a word spoken. Number 2. I was working as a temp at multiple hotels in Berlin. I enjoyed walking home so I could get to know the city better since I was really new there. One hot summer day after a long shift, I decided to walk home. I had my work clothes on a hanger in one hand, my bag in the other, and was really tired and pretty much walked on autopilot. During this time, the main historical building was closed and fenced off due to bomb scares or something similar. As I'm walking along the fence, this touristy-looking guy stopped me and asked in German, "Sorry miss, do you know why this is closed?" As I'm quite a chatty person and like to help tourists, I stopped and started telling him about the bomb scare. The man took my hand into his. It all happened so sudden that it didn't click at first, and I was tired and didn't let go straight away. He kept holding my hand and stroking it, but then eventually kissed it. At that point, I realized that this was not right. I snatched my hand and screamed, "What are you doing?" and walked off, not looking back. 3 months later, I was going home in a metro train and standing at the door waiting to get out at the next stop. I was zoning out, looking straight ahead into the darkness of the train. I noticed out of the corner of my eye this person standing next to me and just staring. A second later, the man leaned towards me and whispered, "We've seen each other before already." I turned to him and saw the same tourist man that had stroked my hand 3 months ago. It happened right before the train door opened, so I jumped off as fast as I could and walked off. Since I lived really close to the station, I got scared to go straight home and just hid in a store for as long as I could. I've never seen him again. Number 1. I come from a very small town where everybody knows each other. Feeling danger or not safe was never part of my childhood, ever. One day I had a huge fight with my parents and I needed some time alone, so I took my bike and went off to the school to just sit and relax. It was around 8 p.m. and it was dark out. While I was sitting there listening to music on my MP3 player, I noticed a van doing circles around the school. At first I didn't think much of it because kidnappings don't really happen here, but it kept going. The van stopped and the back doors opened and 2 guys got out walking towards me. I was a chubby kid, so I knew I couldn't outrun either of them if I had to, so I got on my bike and started pedaling like never before. When I got out onto the road, I looked back and saw the car about 100 meters behind me. Thankfully, the area around here has many turns for farms, and at some point I realized I just couldn't outrun them. So I reached the first of the buildings in my town and just jumped inside one of them. The van realized what I did, turned around, and just drove the other way. The owners of the house came out screaming at me, but I later explained to them the incident and they took me home. I never saw the van again. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos.